Marcus Aurelius said, "Be like a rock, waves constantly crash against it. It stands immovable, and around it the troubled waters subside." The question of how and why we should live has been discussed for centuries. Philosopher Albert Camus compared life to the task of Sisyphus, pushing a boulder uphill for all eternity. Without resilience, determination, and persistent effort, existence becomes impossible. Vissarion Grigoryevich Belinsky spoke of the struggle. There are conditions of life. Life dies when the struggle ends. Camus suggested imagining Sisyphus happy, to not only continue the endless struggle, but also to remain happy and joyful. The Stoics used the teachings of Stoicism to survive epidemics, exile, political imprisonments, and wars. Today, let's explore 5 rules that help them not give up on their goals even in life's most challenging moments. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not let the thought of your life as a whole disturb you, without reflecting on how much and of what kind this or that particular part will be. But at each occasion, ask yourself these questions. What is so unbearable in this? What can't you endure?" Pilot James Stockdale, shot down in North Vietnam, shared his experience. Before landing, facing potential torture and death, he said, "I am leaving the world of technology and entering the world of epithet." In Hanoi Hilton prison, he overcame physical and moral challenges with a broken leg and previous lameness, stating that illness is an obstacle for the body but not for the mind. What helped Stockdale endure over 7 years of imprisonment was Stoicism. This remarkable philosophy not only assisted him in surviving incarceration, but also in not betraying himself and his principles. He could internally uphold his moral code, accepting the fact that he couldn't control external circumstances, but could control his attitude towards them. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison and later became the president of South Africa. While dining as president, he encountered a former prison guard who had mistreated him during captivity. Mandela forgave him, stating, "Those seeking revenge destroy the state, while those seeking reconciliation build nations." During 3 years in Nazi concentration camps, Viktor Frankl provided psychiatric aid to fellow inmates. Unlike many others, imprisonment did not strip him of his human qualities, illustrating resilience. The term resilience is defined by Webster's dictionary as someone who accepts what happens without complaining and without showing negative emotions. While not a complete definition, it captures the essence of resilience. Numerous writings emphasize the harm of constant dissatisfaction and whining, deeming such behavior extremely useless and destructive. Seneca stated, "You are still angry with a thing. Say, I am not angry with the thing, for I have not been wronged." This foundational historical concept had a significant impact on Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who also contemplated complaints in his diary. He recognized that everything that happens to you is either naturally bearable or you possess the capability to endure it. Therefore, if something occurs that you can endure, do not lament, but bear it as your nature allows. If you cannot endure it, there's no reason to be vexed, because annihilating you, it will destroy itself. Remember that your convictions can make everything tolerable and bearable. Either we stand our ground or we don't. Complaints don't tilt the odds in our favor. As Seneca said, we seek reasons for suffering and desire to lament our fate, even unjustifiably, when it doesn't give us grounds for valid complaints. Yet, it seemed to me that you would have enough courage to resist, not just against these customary, seemingly insubstantial complaints that people groan about. Perhaps we can navigate the difficult obstacle with complaints, but is there anything worthy in that? Remember Viktor Frankl. 2,000 years ago, the Roman philosopher Seneca suggested judging people not by their occupation, but by their character. Morals are self-created, and occupation presents an opportunity. This was true in ancient times. A person could be born a slave, as happened to another famous philosopher historian named Epictetus. In this regard, we are much luckier. In terms of expectations, Cicero spoke about it 2 millennia ago, saying, "Expectation is the greatest impediment to living. In anticipation of tomorrow, it loses today. You try to manage what is still in the hands of fortune, releasing what is in your own. Where do you look? Where do you reach? The future is unknown. Live in the now." Our overactive imagination often envisions everything going awry, how things might not go as planned, or how long a project might take. Such thoughts often lead to the development of fear, which paralyzes us and hinders the accomplishment of important tasks. Marcus Aurelius advised constructing life as a series of individual actions and being content if each fulfills its purpose. All we can do is focus on performing one small task at a time to ensure that the overall outcome aligns with its intended purpose. This is applicable in various contexts, as emphasized by Marcus Aurelius in Building One's Life and by the football coach Nick Saban, who taught his players not to be consumed by the big picture in crucial games. Instead, Saban advised concentrating on executing current tasks well. Once he reminded the players, don't think about winning the championship, your statistics, or the next game. Think about what you need to do in each individual moment. As Theodore Roosevelt said, do what you can with what you have, where you are. Life is built step by step, action by action. This is the secret that will help us never to stop. Robert Moses, an incredibly effective individual, created or reconstructed 15 open-air pools, hundreds of tennis courts, baseball fields, and sports grounds. He actively participated in building 13 bridges, over 400 kilometers of highways, residential buildings with a total capacity of about 150,000 apartments, as well as several well-known public buildings and structures in New York. His success was obviously driven by insane work ethics, an unbounded desire to leave his mark in history, as well as callousness and a consumerist approach to people. You can respect or scorn him, but it's known that one of the secrets of his constant success was order on his work desk. Moses preferred to work behind a huge desk, as it made him more efficient and contributed to improving the workflow. His rule was simple: if a task arises, solve it immediately. There was no bedside table in his office to hide papers, preventing him from escaping annoying problems and procrastination. By maintaining order on his desk and in his office, Moses achieved success. Contrary to that, we are buried in documents, our mailbox is overflowing, the computer desktop is literally cluttered with icons, and the phone screen is an endless mosaic of unnecessary programs and applications. And then we wonder why we're stressed, why we can't work, and why we can't find anything. Precious seconds turn into hours spent digging, scrolling, or searching for information. As the writer Gretham Robin says, external order leads to inner peace. The great tennis player Rafael Nadal carefully arranges water bottles and isotonic drinks diagonally, unwrapping their labels towards the court. It's not superstition, but a unique ritual that establishes a specific order, both on the tennis court and in his mind, the place where the work is done. We must respect him as a person who doesn't eliminate background noise and risks missing it. Epictetus said, "Do not demand that events happen as you wish, but accept what happens, and you will be happy." As mentioned earlier, difficulties allow us to reveal our true character. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, not wanting anything to be different, not in the future, not in the past, not for all eternity. Not merely to endure necessity, but to love it." Amor fati literally translates to love of fate. The probability of our birth is roughly the same as 2 million people simultaneously rolling dice and all getting the same number. Yet here we are, overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles in our existence, our own difficulties. Even if it's because they are catastrophically unique, we need to understand that destabilizing events are the inevitable costs of our existence. If Nietzsche suggested treating it as a peculiar tax on life, Ulysses S. Grant, who sold firewood in St. Louis, faced a similar situation. This scenario was a complete failure for the graduate of the oldest academy in the USA, and when a former classmate met him and scornfully asked, "Grant, what are you doing?" his confident response was, "I'm solving the problem of poverty." These were the words of a self-assured person. Grant would never have chosen such a situation himself, but when faced with it, he didn't allow it to negatively impact him. What's the point of hating yourself when you've earned it for food? Subsequently, Grant led an army and then became the 18th President of the United States. Acceptance by no means implies passivity. The story of Grant illustrates how we can accept what has happened, even if it's destructive and beyond our control. While we may not be able to change it, we can extract maximum benefit from the experience and strive to ensure it never happens again. No one has ever called Winston Churchill lazy. His entire reputation is built on his strong and resilient spirit. He was strong enough to inspire the British people to resist Nazi bombings and the possible invasion. You've probably heard the first part of his famous speech delivered to boys at Harrow School, where he once studied. Never give in. Never give in. Never, 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 never. However, did you know there's a second part? Never give in, except to convictions of honor and good sense. In the second part, Churchill explains the conditions under which we should surrender or retreat. First, if it concerns honor, and second, if there is no point in continuing. In one case, it is wise to fight. In the other, it is not. All great figures aimed for this balance. Yes, they were strong advocates of perseverance and persistence, not giving up simply because it was difficult, but they were not masochists. They understood that relentlessly banging one's head against a wall is futile. Einstein said, "The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results." Living like that is not sustainable. It's good to be tough, but hardly great. It's commendable, but not when obstinacy compromises our decisions or becomes a personal flaw. Remember this today. Let honor, determination, and courage guide you. Stubbornness and cowardice should not be part of the equation. If you enjoyed the video, I strongly encourage you to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. It greatly helps channel promotion. Goodbye until our next encounter.